I had just left England and was flying on an empty plane. The sun started rising and not long later we were flying over Qatar. This was definitely the scariest flight landing I've ever experienced because it looked like we were flying into the water. Once it landed on ground, we got off, headed onto the bus and into the airport. A while later, I boarded the next flight and flew out of Qatar and headed towards Dhaka in Bangladesh. Upon arrival, they made an announcement saying that me and the only other British passenger had to wait back. Then we got escorted into the airport where there was a heavy police and military presence. We had to wait for the military to grant us permission to leave the airport before eventually escorting us out and taking us to the hotel for quarantine. Last episode I showed you the 2-day stay in London before boarding a flight out of England. The plane was completely empty, so I put my feet up, watched a few movies as I headed to the Middle East into Qatar. Now and then I couldn't help looking out the windows and looking down onto the cities or towns below and wondering what was going on and thinking which country I was flying above. A few hours later, the dark night sky started turning light as the sun prepared to rise. At this point, we were flying over the ocean, so when I looked down and seen these giant fires burning, I couldn't help wondering again what they were and thought myself perhaps they were oil rigs or something along those lines. Soon, the night sky started to fade as it slowly turned into the morning. I caught the first glimpse of the sun as it peeked out over the horizon line. Anyone who's been fortunate enough to fly during sunrise or sunset can tell you that the views from a plane are spectacular. The views over Doha and Qatar were unreal as well as I looked down over the landscape. It was a similar style to the multi-billion-pound project along the Dubai coastline. As beautiful as the views were and as calm as I felt, nothing could prepare us for what was about to happen next as the plane started slowly descending into what I thought was going to be the ocean, but it did touch down on the end of the landing strip, which was right on the edge of the water. Once I was safely on the ground, we got off the plane and got onto the bus, which took us into the airport. Thankfully, I only had to wait an hour for my next connected flight.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I couldn't contain my excitement as I boarded the next flight, my final flight to the final destination. Next stop, the capital city of Bangladesh, Dhaka. I was amazed when the passenger sat next to us showed us you can tint the windows at the push of a button. I watched a bit Planet Earth as I travelled around the world before having to fill out a few forms again for Qatar Airways. You might think I'm really weird or sad for saying this, but one thing I love about going abroad is looking down over other countries into random places and wondering what goes on down there, who lives down there, what strange and mysterious stories would come out of that place, and I would absolutely love to find out. So what I do is, when I see somewhere interesting or somewhere that captures my imagination, I take the name off the map and jot it down into my notes on my phone so I can search it online later on when I reach my destination. It had sunk into us now that I'd left the UK, and it was dawning on us just how close I was to landing in another country and gaining my freedom.
So there's just been an announcement on the plane. Can Mr. Adil Alam and this gentleman wait for everyone to get off the plane? Simply because we're British.
And they literally meant what they said. We got kept back about half an hour on the plane after everyone else had got off.
Thank you very much. Cheers. See you later now.
All these workers just for 2 passengers.
Oh, what?
Then we got escorted into the airport where we had to wait in a holding room and sign a few forms before being released. The first thing I noticed is that there was a heavy police and military presence, and they were armed with a lot of guns. This is the holding room where I had to wait and sign a few forms.
I think I'm glad I'm in here now rather than in that queue.
It did get slightly frustrating though, as I was eager to get out and see my family who were waiting outside the airport, so I convinced them to let us go to the airport smoking room for a cigarette. And on the way back, you should have seen the size of this immigration line. I have seen nothing like it in my life before. Take a look. When I got back to the holding room to keep myself entertained and to pass time, I just watched the shenanigans going on in the airport.
Look at him, man, just screaming in people's faces with a loudspeaker. He's ruthless, him.
After a while, an armed guard came to get us and took us over to the military, where I had to sign a few more forms before they would release us and escort us to the hotel where we'd have to do the mandatory quarantine. The reason these procedures were in effect is because I came during the peak of the pandemic when COVID cases were rapidly rising. So that's why the military kept our passports until the quarantine was finished.
So now basically these lot are going to take us to the hotel. I've got to quarantine for 4 days instead of 7. They told us 7 at Heathrow. But
I guess that was a reason to stay positive, because it had been a crazy procedure trying to get abroad, and now I was closer than ever before. It had been 1 month since Qatar Airways had denied us entry to my flight, and every day since I had been on the phone for hours to the embassies trying to get my passport renewed, to the clinics trying to find an RT-PCR test, and to the airlines trying to renew my dates because I was unsure when I would eventually be coming back. I signed off my name for release, and one of the soldiers escorted us out, where he had to meet with one of the hotel workers to sign a few more documents to confirm everything before I could be escorted to the hotel to do my quarantine. But right now I was looking forward to seeing my family, because I knew I was literally moments away from seeing them, so it was just a case of getting outside, getting these forms signed. Whilst they were busy doing all of that, I couldn't help but have a little peek around, nervously looking for my family to see if I could spot them, but they were nowhere in sight. I strayed away from them a little bit to go and check if I could see my family, but again they were nowhere to be seen, and to be fair, I had no idea where it was they would actually be waiting. There was a lot of police presence outside with some serious looking guns, and again, like 15 years ago, unless you were airport staff, a passenger, police or military, you had to wait outside the airport. Suddenly I spotted my family, and I could not hide the joy on my face. It had been 15 years since I'd seen my own blood and flesh. I'd only seen them 3 times in my lifetime.
That's right, so this is my mum's youngest brother, my uncle. This is my cousin, this is my nephew.
The soldier and the hotel staff had signed all my forms for release, so I got into the car as I prepared to head to the hotel to do my 4-day quarantine. And I was one step closer to freedom. I was in Bangladesh, I was with my family, and I only had 4 days of quarantine to go.